All right, folks, right now I'm being joined by a former Parkview Baptist basketball star. How about that for an intro?
Parkview Baptist Hall of Famer, but not for athletics, unfortunately. I did score 1,000 points in high school, which was nice, and I have a ball on my shelf at home that reflects that. But actually, the Hall of Famer was for writing hype video scripts. So,
and look where you are now.
Never expected to be an artist, but here I am an artist apparently.
Who was your coach? Cody Worsham, by the way, is our guest. Was it Jermaine?
No, so I had Brad Winters was my coach my freshman year, sophomore year, and then Eddie Vaughn was my coach junior and senior year.
Yeah, Jermaine is Cody's younger than me, but he's not that much younger than me. Jermaine Williams played basketball here. He's a defensive standout for John Brady.
He was. He played at Parkview first, and Jermaine was on the 97-98 state championship teams at Parkview when my dad was the principal when first got there. Played for Don Green, so Coach Green was a big influence on me growing up, and really inspired me to get into basketball over football and baseball. So Parkview ties go deep.
And when you Google Cody's name, Nicholls State also pops up.
Yeah. Oh man. There was a year at Nicholls State where I was a walk-on. The highlight of my Nicholls State career was in scout team the week before we played LSU. I was Marcus Thornton for scout team.
There you go.
And so my coach told me, every time you touch the ball, you have to shoot it. And so every time I touched the ball, I shot it. And I shot the lights out that week. I got him ready for Marcus Thornton. We played him tough. Marcus and Taz and that crew ultimately beat that Nicholls team. But it was a good game. It was a good Nicholls team, good LSU team.
Yeah. I didn't play nearly at the level you did, but my coach used to tell me there wasn't a shot that I met that I didn't like. So that sounds like you in the practice. Shoot it from everywhere.
Yeah, I was more of a pass first guy, but when they told me to shoot it, I'd shoot it, and that was a fun week. It was a fun week of practice.
So Cody, over the years, has written for different publications, Tiger Rag Magazine and some others, and now he's been working in the LSU athletic office. How many years now for you?
Yeah, I started at LSU in August of 2018, right before we played Miami. So I just hit 3 years in August, so I guess we're close to 3.5 now.
And Cody specializes in just great stuff on social media, on the digital platforms, lots of good info, statistics. Todd Polites obviously is
he's the godfather of stats.
Is an endless Grand Canyon of
that's it.
of knowledge and information. And well, when's the last time such and such happened? Todd?
Go to Todd. Todd will have the answer for you.
So and it'll never happen. But if LSU lost 100-0 in a football game, these guys would have the positive info. Jack Besh caught 5 passes for 30 yards and did whatever. So
that's part of the job. We were at a reception for Coach Kelly last night. I know we'll talk about Coach Kelly in a second, but I saw some folks that were getting on me about that and telling me all the positive information I'd put out during 2 500 seasons. I said, hey, that's what I'm here to do. I'm here to tell you the good side of the story. You can find the bad side of the story somewhere else. I'll tell you the good stuff.
Well, if that doesn't sum up social media right there, you're being too positive. So, there's a new head coach, and he was introduced in the room that we're sitting in. We're in the Lawton room of Tiger Stadium right now, and Coach Brian Kelly, this room was packed. What a whirlwind 72 hours for LSU. First of all, let's talk about the airplane arrival.
Sure.
I mean, this was something out of a movie.
Yeah.
People at Channel 9 in the news department, I've seen President Obama or President Bush or either Bush or whatever president landed, it kind of reminded them of that.
Well, good. That's what we were going for. When you think about it, we haven't had a real coaching hire in this modern social media age. You had Les, but that was in 2004, 2005.
Yeah.
I guess right at the new year of 2005. You had Coach O kind of transition in. He was already here, so we didn't have the big arrival moment. He was here.
Yeah.
And so we wanted to make a big deal out of it and do all the bells and whistles. So we've had a taste of it with Coach Mulkey and Coach Johnson recently, and sort of this new model of how we welcome coaches in. But we wanted to bring out all the bells and whistles. We had the band out there. We had a bunch of fans out there. Our camera crew was on the plane. We had photo and video on the plane there, on the plane back, so we'll have a lot of great content with that. But that's, part of that's the vision of Scott and Stephanie and our leadership in athletics. They want to go all out on all this stuff and be excellent in everything we do. So a lot of places wouldn't put a camera on the plane, right? They wouldn't put a photographer on the plane, but they've embraced that and empowered us to do those things. They empowered marketing to send the band out there and roll out the purple carpet, and so it's great.
And those vehicles in that motorcade were vehicles I could not afford for sure.
The
they
Sprinter
were
vans?
Yeah,
I like the Sprinter vans. They make for great photos too. If you see some of the photos they've taken, very dark on the inside, but you got that light coming through on the side. Great photos.
Oh, it was certainly straight out of a movie. It was fantastic. Certainly not something. Well, the coach is landing. He's gonna get out. I mean, I can imagine how much work and phone calls and everything it took just to coordinate that. And yeah, we appreciate. I mean, us being in the media. And that's how you kind of build up a Twitter following too, in my case or whoever. You take people where they can't go, whether it's some silly t-shirt that Florida's selling in Gainesville. Okay, I'm here, I see it, I share it, mocking LSU. Then that gets them all fired up, but you being on the plane, and certainly us, I mean, there's a lot of click and share, saving it and editing it in the studio. So, I mean, those pictures you have of Scott Woodward and Brian Kelly on the plane and all that stuff is invaluable in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean that's the world we live in now, right? Like it's all about content and taking fans, like you said, where they can't go and where they can't be. Well, we want to take them there. Their support for us is unrivaled, and so we want to give them unrivaled coverage. And so whether that's putting a camera on the plane, miking up Coach Kelly. Yesterday we'll have a lot of video rolling out with that. He every word that he said for the last 48 hours since he landed, he's had a microphone on him. And so we have a lot of content coming out that way. And then in the future, we're hoping to even expand that even more and give people even more behind the scenes access on the things that we do, because it's cool. Like I'm like you, Jacques. I've been in the media. I've now been on the inside at LSU. You just see things differently once you get on the other side, and we're kind of sitting here like, man, I wish everyone could see this. So
yeah,
that's what we're working on. We've got some big plans with some of that stuff that we're not quite ready to announce yet, but a lot more of that kind of content's coming.
Well, and I'm saying this in a positive way. We don't let anything breathe anymore. It used to be introduce the coach, we all go away for a while, and I mean, just think, for example, the hiring of Kim Mulkey, which it was an amazing thing that LSU pulled off. And every time I come down the street here, I feel like I'm kind of going to a Coach's Hall of Fame to an extent, because you guys have got some rock stars lined up over here now, for sure. But, just think of all the stuff you did on Kim Mulkey before her first tip-off.
Yep.
That you did, and people ate it up. If you're serving stuff and people aren't eating it, well, maybe we cut it back. But as long as they're engaged in what you're doing, you can't give them enough, can you?
No, I mean that's our fans, right? Like you know as well as anybody, they have an endless appetite for LSU content. Whether it's what Will Wade always says is, you put them in purple and gold, and it doesn't matter if they're playing basketball or cards or skipping rope or playing hopscotch, whatever. They're going to come out and cheer for LSU and cheer for a winner. And so, Kim is the example. She's the epitome of a winner, just like Brian Kelly is. And so, anytime you can show the fans anything that they haven't seen with our great coaches, they eat it up. But it's a credit to our coaches too. They're all in. Like, they're bought in. We don't have to do any convincing. There's no, hey, why should I do this? It's, you think we should do this? All right, we trust you, and we empower you to do that, and that's the vision that we have right now, and it's working out really well.
In 2019, Cody, before every game, Joe Brady would do a lap around the field, and he'd twirl a football in his hand like this, and I'd just be standing there, and I'd shoot it with my phone and tweet it. This isn't really journalism, but 30,000 views, 40,000 views later of a guy twirling a football walking around, because he became a rock star and all that stuff. But those are the kind of things. And then somebody will tweet, "Whoa, that was really exciting." Well, I mean, the views don't lie, right? So you share what you
share. I mean, just as an example, this is unofficial, so don't quote me on this. This is not officially.
This is a talk show format. We're not breaking into the young and the restless and saying breaking news. Cody's got, but
I was talking to some of our social media team, and we're still tracking down some of the numbers, but they think of the top 100 posts in college football history, social media posts, that LSU football is responsible for 48, 49 of them. I mean, when you think about that, now that's a credit to our team for sure, and the quality of our football team winning a bunch of games. The more you win, the more success you have, the more eyeballs there are. Of course, it's credit to our creative team, their planning, their execution. But it's the fans. Like, the fans love that stuff. They consume it. They want more of it. They tell us when something we put out isn't up to that standard, and so we're reminded, all right, we got to keep it at that standard. So the demand is there, so we have to provide the supply.
So roughly half of the 100 videos belong to LSU.
Yeah.
And I believe there's 130 teams in the FBS.
Yep.
And certainly there's teams in the FCS that can generate media exposure
Sure.
and interest and everything, too. So that's pretty amazing. Yeah, and not to go too far back in time, but I want to talk about the present, obviously with Brian Kelly and everything. But 2019, Scott Woodward would talk about, we could spend $1 billion and not get the kind of exposure we're getting right now from a Joe Burrow winning the Heisman Trophy and giving the speech he gave when he's breaking down crying. I know you guys obviously had to spend money on the Times Square thing with Joe Burrow.
Yeah.
I never forget, like Joe Burrow winning the Heisman Trophy. We had a red-eye flight in the morning. It's 4 a.m. or something. We're driving through the heart of New York City. It's pretty quiet for New York City, and I'm just looking up, and there's Joe Burrow with the Heisman Trophy. I'm like, is this real? Is this really happening right now? It was that kind of dream that year.
So I have a great Heisman story with Joe. So that whole week was wild, and we had the college football awards in Atlanta right before that. Joe,
which you won everything at.
Yeah, we cleaned up there, and Joe had to go to, I think, Baltimore for the Unitas Award.
Yeah, that's right.
And so we kind of split up as a group, and I was with a lot of the guys who were in Atlanta, Grant and Jamar, and so I went from there straight to New York, and I met up with the Heisman travel party. And so I was the only LSU person on the Heisman travel party, but it included Jalen Hurts and that whole crew. Included both of the Ohio State guys, their SIDs, their parents. I mean, it was probably a party of 30 people, and I was the only one wearing purple and gold. And so we fly into New York, whatever. We get on the bus. We're pulling into Times Square. It's a long bus ride. You're sitting in traffic. Everyone's kind of calm and quiet, maybe if you were taking a nap. And we finally pull into Times Square, and it's a pretty stunning moment when you come from like the blocks of New York City to Times Square. We pull in, and as soon as we pull in, the first thing you can see is a billboard of Joe Burrow. And he hadn't won the Heisman yet, but there's the billboard there, right there, and it says Heisman, and then it flashes to Joe, and I think he's twirling a football or something. And the bus, there had been some chatter, everyone was kind of talking quietly amongst themselves. The bus goes dead quiet. And I'm sitting there at the back. I haven't said a word the whole time, hadn't talked to anybody. I've just been quiet in my own world. And I said, that's a nice billboard. And I got daggers stared at me, deservedly so. I shouldn't have said that, but I wasn't trying to be rude. I was overtaken by the moment the same way that everyone else was and that you were.
Yeah.
And they gave me the kind of look that you don't want to get from anybody. So I quickly shut my mouth and got off the bus as quickly as I could and linked back up with the LSU party and had a good weekend.
You were brave, though, man.
I was stupid. I didn't know what I was saying. I was stupid, not brave.
You were Rocky Balboa in Russia right?
There's a thin line between stupidity and bravery, and I was towing that line.
And totally sober, too, right?
Oh yeah, at that point I was.
The celebration came later.
I was on a lot of coffee at that point.
Yeah.
Trying to keep moving through the week, but yeah, it was a good week.
What would we do without coffee? I know that in TV, caffeine, too caffeinated. So, tell me about Brian Kelly. Tell me about so the plane lands. He's introduced here, and once again a Scott Woodward kind of thing where maybe you got lulled to sleep on this deal. Why would a guy that's been at Notre Dame 12 years, who's 60 years old, as accomplished as he is, leave to come here? Just like why would Kim Mulkey leave Baylor to come here?
Yeah.
But it's pulled off again.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't find out about it till Monday, probably just a few hours before everyone else found out about it, and I was stunned. When they told me the news, I didn't have much of a reaction. They were like, "Are you not excited about it?" I said, "I can't even process it because my head was in a completely different direction. Like everybody else, I didn't know who they were targeting. I was listening to a lot of the media reports and saying, all right, I need to be prepared for this guy or whoever, and just kind of getting my headspace that way for all the work that would be done over the next couple of days. And so when it was Coach Kelly, I was kind of stunned, started doing my research, obviously familiar with his resume at Notre Dame, but didn't realize that he was the winningest active coach in major college football. Didn't realize that 2 of the last 3 college football playoffs he's been there. Didn't realize that he'd had 2 undefeated regular seasons. And so that's the resume, and then he gets here and you spend a little time with him. And what stands out is just how thorough he is, his attention to detail. He cares about every level of the program, from the smallest thing to the biggest picture thing. And so one example is yesterday he was signing autographs for the first time. I guess I should do my left hand since he's left-handed. But he was signing a bunch of items for the first time that we're auctioning off now. And before he started signing anything, he brought us in there and he said, how should I sign it? Like, what should I, this is how I used to do it. What should I write? my name? Should I write Go Tigers? Should I write whatever? And so we decided on that. And then as he's signing, they start telling us that he has a process for how he signs everything. He does it the same day every month. They have a system of what kinds of items he signs. It's almost like an assembly line. They do these items first, and these items, and these items. Then they send them off, and eventually he'll set it up to where proceeds go back to his foundation to fight breast cancer. And I'm just sitting here like, if this has a system, everything has a system. The way they communicate, the way they game plan, the way they lift weights and eat. And so I saw that little lens of it. I think everyone else that's spent a little time with him has seen it through their own lens of, man, he's got a system and a plan for everything. And that's going to be great for this program. It's going to take all the resources we have, all the talent we have, channel it in the right direction and maximize it. So it's exciting. Yeah,
and certainly Coach O created memories that we'll have for a lifetime and had a lot of success here.
No doubt.
First year against Notre Dame, they give up a late touchdown pass, or he's 10-3.
Sure.
Second year, he's 10-3, and we know how the A&M game went in College Station. Otherwise, he's 11-2, and finishes even higher. They finished number 6 that year. The Cole Tracy field goal at Auburn, and bashing Miami in the season opener, and Georgia coming here when they were number 2 in the country, and Central Florida had that 25-game winning streak that came to an end in the Fiesta Bowl in 2019. We can do 5 hours on that. Sure. So the success wasn't sustained and everything. But I think LSU right now, this guy's a professional, a fixer, so to speak.
Sure.
I think he's going to step in immediately and say, okay, these are the problems. We're going to address them and get back on track.
Yeah, and look, we've had success at LSU. There's no question about that. We've been as good as just about every football program in the country. But I think it's just about taking that next step and taking it to the next level and then sustaining that and keeping it there. It's I was listening to Marcus Spears on TV, and he was talking about the peaks and valleys, right? And if the valley in these peaks and valleys is a 5-5 season, a 6-6 season, okay, then it could be a lot worse, certainly. But that's not what we want here. We don't want 5-5 seasons, 6-6 seasons. We want to maintain that excellence. He's done it at Notre Dame with 5 straight 10-win seasons, 54-9, I think, in the last 5 seasons. Like I said, he's been to the playoffs, and so take that model that works there at that institution and apply it here, and then tap into the resources and the commitment to excellence that we have with, whether it's recruiting, whether it's Scott's leadership, President Tate's leadership, just the amount of talent in the state of Louisiana alone. Yeah. You tap into all those things and maximize all those things, and the sky's the limit for LSU football.
Yeah. And Cody, 34-6 at Cincinnati before that.
Yep.
Going all the way back, what was the division? Grand Valley State.
Grand Valley State.
2 Division II national championships.
Yep.
Something like that.
Yeah, I believe they won 43 games in his last 3 seasons there when he won 2 of those national championships. So, yeah, he's been successful at every level. He's a winner. Success follows him everywhere he goes.
Somebody told me you hire the resume, and you look at the resume. I mean, if he was a golfer, he hits it down the middle every time for the most part. And he will get to learn Baton Rouge and Louisiana. It was funny at the podium. He goes, "Do you guys like Baton Rouge?" And Garth Brooks. And And I thought to myself, well, Coach, there's one song in particular that you're going to hear a million times by the time you're done here.
Yes, indeed.
And wow, and just real quick off the. Garth Brooks is coming to Tiger Stadium. That in itself, some people would argue that's as big as as an announcement as Coach Kelly comes.
Oh, sure. Part of it is we were planning for the Garth Brooks thing is we knew there was a chance we were going to be announcing a coach around the same time. But the concert is put on by another group, and so they had a timeline they wanted to get it announced by, and so we were going to stick to that commitment, knowing that we would probably have to juggle 2 things at once. So we put a lot of time in planning and announcing the Garth Brooks stuff, and we were kind of sitting there one day in one of these meetings. We were like, look, we got to do this the right way. It's how we do it at LSU. We got to do it the best we can. This thing's going to sell itself. We're not going to have to do much selling. You just kind of put it out there, people are going to buy it. I mean, I'll be there. I can't wait to see it. It's going to be exciting.
Yeah. And I saw Jason Fearman here, who's been working at LSU forever too. And he said, did you notice we put the call in Baton Rouge and Brian Kelly also? Right?
Yeah, on the graphic, sure.
I'm already forgetting. Kelly came out before Garth Brooks?
Right before. Okay. So the news on Coach Kelly broke Monday. We announced early Tuesday morning, and then Wednesday we announced the Garth Brooks stuff.
Okay, so there you go. He was like, we were giving you a hint there.
Yeah, just a little teaser. Just a little teaser there.
Yeah, and after all those years of Bayou Country Superfest coming, and every year Bayou Country Superfest would come and they'd say, next year we're getting Garth Brooks. Next year we're getting Garth Brooks, and it never happened. He played Lafayette. He played New Orleans. It was like this big tease. And so, well, that's awesome. Yeah, good things come to those who wait. You may have 90,000 people in there for that.
We sure hope so. Like I said, I think it's going to sell itself, but it'll be right after the spring game. So I guess I'll play the spring game sometime in that third week of April, fourth week of April, and then Garth will be in town the next week. It'll be a fun time to be in Baton Rouge for sure.
And when he plays Callin' Baton Rouge that night, he might should just play it 10 times. I don't know.
That's what I was about to say. Just keep playing it on loop. Like, just don't play anything else.
Open the show in the middle, close, encore, play it again.
You can do Friends in Low Places, and then Callin' Baton Rouge, just rotate between those two.
Yeah, but I would imagine in every LSU hype video next year, that's going to be in there somewhere.
Oh, I'm sure we'll have plenty of footage when he comes for his concert, and we'll work that into the Tiger Stadium experience for sure.
I was in high school from 1990 to 1994 at North Vermilion High School out in the country, and that was just on his catalog of hits in that window. He could still be touring and doing big business, but man, what a career for him. So, and so Brian Kelly, and another thing too, Cody. There's been some national criticism about him leaving and this and that, and there's no perfect way to pull this off, right? There's no date on the calendar that the NCAA says on January the 15th, that is when you hire a new head coach.
Yeah.
And it's got to be almost like whiplash for him to be at Notre Dame and be given this choice. Hey, you coming or going? You've been there 12 years. You come down, all of a sudden you're in this room talking in front of a bunch of people you've never seen before. Yep. You're at a basketball game at midcourt in front of 11,000 people talking about LSU, go Tigers, and all that. That's just the way this thing works.
Yeah, I mean, when you make a decision like that, like the only way to make it is to be decisive. And so you don't make the decision and then say, look, I've had a great career at Notre Dame. I'm excited about going to LSU, but I'm going to wait a few weeks. You just can't do that, right? You have to be decisive. It's what's best for LSU football, but I think it's what's probably best for Notre Dame too. They've already made their decision. They've had the closure that they needed quickly because Coach Kelly made a quick, decisive decision, and so they've been able to shore up, hire the coach that they want to hire, and sort of solidify over there. So that, I mean, look, if you're going to make a decision, and that's what Coach Kelly did. It wasn't easy, but he was able to get in front of his team, look them in the eye, tell them why he was making that decision, which is as difficult as anything, but he was at least able to do that and say goodbye to them. So that's all you can ask for, and I know he's excited about being here.
Well, the story leaked. I'm just assuming, what he wanted to do was probably meet with them, tell them, and then you guys put the release out or however the order would have gone.
In fact, that was the plan. The plan was not to release it, and we didn't. We didn't release anything until after, and the plan was for him to I think he was out recruiting in California on Monday. He was going to fly back and tell his team Tuesday morning, but the news leaked before that. And you know how it goes. I mean, it's the news industry. When a reporter gets a hold of something, they're not going to sit on it until the coach tells the team, right? And so while the coach would have loved to sit down and tell the team and them be the first ones to know, that's just not the way that the information economy works these days. So.
And he can't be in two places at once. Like some people say, well, why doesn't he coach the team to the end? I'm like, he can't do that.
Exactly.
He's got signing day December 15th. He's got to do a staff.
He's LSU's coach now, and he's going to look out for what's best for LSU football, and Notre Dame will hire a coach, and that coach will take care of Notre Dame football.
During our coverage of the hiring, we got the cutaway of Cody Worsham and Scott Wilbert on the wall over here watching the press conference there. Two very powerful people here at LSU. Talk to me about Woody. Talk to me about working with him and his leadership. And just real quick, he is not someone who seeks out these things, the cameras.
No.
He is not a glory hound, a media hound. He does interviews. He's very amicable when he does them, but he's not searching them out. And while I'm sure he views you as an invaluable asset in terms of media, Twitter and Facebook and all that, he's not going to get on Twitter and Facebook and say, ooh, this fan said I should do this. My feelings are hurt. He could care less, right? He's going to make his own decisions and be his own man and do what's best for this place.
There's a great, if you go back and look at his first press conference, there's a great clip of him saying when he got here in 2019 about Twitter. He said, look, only 20% of the people are on Twitter. Only 10% are active users, and only 2% are hyperactive users. So the noise that you see there, or really anywhere on the internet, it's a distorted reality. I think he called it BS at the time, was the technical term that he used. So no, he doesn't pay attention to any of that. That's what he has me do, and I will only tell them about maybe the very 99th percentile of importance of stuff that's going on. But that's not his concern. His concern is giving student athletes a world-class opportunity and experience here, and giving them the support they need, and then empowering us as staff to do what we need to do to fulfill that mission. That's what he's great at. He is great at identifying elite talent, whether it's Stephanie Remp at the administrative level, to the coaches that have been hired, to the people that run marketing and the people that run facilities and the people that handle concessions. I mean, every level of the department he looks at, he finds the best person for the job, and he goes out and gets them. And then he empowers them to do their job. So that's his strength and his skill set, and then he takes care of the things that he needs to take care of, and is just a really, really effective leader and communicator. But he doesn't care about the cameras. He don't want to be in front of them. I didn't have to twist his arm to get the scrum yesterday after the press conference. He was willing to do that, but after about 6 or 7 minutes, I could kind of feel him kind of gazing toward me, like, all right, let's wrap this thing. But no, he's great in front of the camera. If he wanted to be in front of the cameras all the time, he could do it. But that's not his. He's not here for the attention. He's here to. He loves this place. That's the biggest thing. He loves this place, and he's seen what this is fundamentally what motivates Scott Woodward. He's seen what a great athletics program can do for not only the entire university, but the state. He loves this state. He loves Louisiana. And he was here, when President Emmert was here, and was able to really elevate the institution. And that's his goal. And so that's why he, with President Tate in the position that he's in, him and Scott have such a great working relationship, and they really feed off each other. And President Tate empowers Scott to do the things just the way that Scott empowers us to do it. So it's a great time to be working here for sure.
Yeah, Skip Burtman said the football program is the front porch of your house.
Sure.
It's what everyone sees, and it's the gateway to everything else on this university. And we've seen it at other schools. When the football team thrives, your enrollment goes up.
Yep.
Young high school kids want to go to a place where the football team is kicking butt and having fun. And then things that have nothing to do with football. Our news director says he goes to a donut shop here in town. When LSU wins, people buy donuts on Sunday morning. When LSU doesn't win, people don't buy donuts on Sunday morning.
I mean, you grew up in the area around the same time I did, Jacques, and when I was growing up in Baton Rouge, and this was maybe a misperception on my part, but I didn't associate LSU with excellence then, right? It was the state school. People loved it. They were proud of it, but I didn't think LSU is an excellent institution. Now, it probably was. I was 6, 7 years old. I didn't know anything. But when you're that age and you're young and you're growing up here, you kind of the football program kind of gives the vibe off for the rest of the institution, fair or not. And when I was growing up, the football team wasn't winning football games in the early 90s, right? And then as the football team started to get that success, it sort of changed the perception, and perception is reality. And it started highlighting the best parts of the university, and then it creates synergy. Professors want to come here. Students want to come here. They want to stay here. It creates a really good positive energy. So really we have a small part to play in the success of the overall institution, and we want to play that part and follow their leadership and stay, as the word of the day was yesterday, aligned with them. But it's a visible part, and so you've got to execute it really well.
Yeah, and I think there's a balance too, Cody, between 2019 winning the national title and doing that. And if LSU wins another national title, it may never be as good as that year was, because that year was just like a perfect 10 across the board.
Sure.
But I don't want it to be a case of LSU's 10-2 and going to the Sugar Bowl and someone's turning their nose up at that.
Yeah.
Like, if we're not playing for the national title, it's meaningless.
Yeah.
Or whatever. Because I remember, my first year being an LSU fan was 1987. They went 10-1-1. They were 5th in the country. And from that point till about 2001, that was the best team I ever saw.
Yep.
So, Billy Cannon and all that happened. It was like, well, that was their one. I don't think they're going to get another one. So anyway, there's been a lot of success here, but you don't want to talk with your mouth full at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, what you're talking about is entitlement, right? You don't want to feel entitled to anything. You can still have standards of excellence, but not feel entitled to going undefeated and winning the national championship every year. That's just not going to happen. It just doesn't happen. It's too competitive. But you can still have those standards for excellence. And for me, it's not just about going 15-0 and having possibly the best team in college football ever. It's about graduating student athletes, producing elite student athletes, high character individuals that go out. Because look, a lot of them, we had 14 or 15 drafted that year, 20 that joined NFL rosters. A lot of them will go on to play at the next level. A lot of them won't. They become coaches, they become fathers, they become leaders. And I know from my personal experience with athletics, all the stuff that I went through as a very, very low caliber athlete compared to the guys that I'm around every day and the women I'm around every day here at LSU. The lessons I learned in those smaller arenas, I use them every day, mostly as a father, mostly as a husband. A lot of times in the work that I do for LSU. That's why we're here for these student athletes. We want them to look back on their time here and the lessons they learned here and apply it. And that's how you get to that mission that Scott's so passionate about, elevating the state. Like look at our health numbers, our education numbers as a state. We've got to get those up. Mm-hmm. And the best way to do that is to have an institution that brings in brilliant people from all over the world, brilliant athletes, brilliant academics. They come here, they love it here, they stay here, and then their talent elevates the entire state. That's the mission. That's the small part that football plays, that athletics as a whole plays, but that the institution as a whole plays largely.
And we're going to have to stop eating all that boudin and all those
No, we don't have to stop it. It's just about balance and maybe going for a run or lifting weights, whatever. It's just balance. That's the other thing, though. Like, that's what's special about this place too, is that we can work hard and play hard too still. And so that's again what you're talking about with the entitlement. Like, enjoy it, right? Mm-hmm. Enjoy the runs, enjoy the success. Certainly, if we want to win a national championship in every sport every year, you can still enjoy the pursuit of that. And when you fall short and you have your heart broken, picking things up and putting it back together and making another run at it the next year.
Well, and I heard a national media guy appear on a local show, and he said, "Oh, well, if Brian Kelly doesn't win a national championship, they're going to fire him, in a couple of years." And I thought that was totally unfair. I think if you dip at LSU, dip to 9-3, and if you're in the running, so to speak, for an SEC title or a national title every second or third year or something like that, I think, just me personally, I think that's a reasonable expectation. You just can't, like I said, dip to 6-6. So. We'll see.
Yeah, and it's the results on the field. Those absolutely matter. Like Brian Kelly, he said it up there at that podium right there yesterday. He's here to win a national championship, and if he doesn't reach that standard, he's going to be disappointed. And so you can talk about hiring, firing, whatever. Like, that's the standard that he's already set for himself, mm-hmm. and I think he would. That's what he's targeting. But to me, it's also about the broader picture, and I think that's where he's really going to make the biggest difference. Yeah, I think he's going to win a lot of football games. I think there's a really good chance that he adds championships to the collection. Yeah. I think he's going to impact the program, academics, I think nutrition, I think the way they do strength and training. I think every element of the program is going to be improved because of the plan that he's going to have in place. And that's what excites me, because that's when it gets contagious. And, it's interesting. We were sitting out there in that room, the bowl room earlier, before his press conference. He had a coach's breakfast, right? And so all the coaches were there. Every coach, Jay Johnson, Kim Mulkey, Will Wade, Beth Tarina, all of them were out there with Coach, and he spoke for a minute, and he said, "Look, I'm here, to coach this football team, but I want to learn from y'all. I want to learn from your expertise and the expert. We're in the same industry. Our whys are the same. It's to develop 18 to 20-year-old student athletes, and so I want to learn from the softball coach, and I'll be at the men's basketball game on Wednesday. I'll be at the women's basketball game on Thursday, because it's the same. It's the same standard of success. It's the same demands on student athletes and coaches. So I think he's here to both elevate LSU athletics, but be elevated by LSU athletics.
This has been really good. I've taken a lot of your time. A few more things before we let you go here, Cody Worsham. And,
I got nothing going on.
Yeah, you finally get to breathe a little bit, right?
It's been a nice, after a wild 72 hours, it's been a nice, calm 12 to 24 hours.
He doesn't have to break the story on who the new offensive coordinator is, or the defensive coordinator, or the staff.
That's your job. That's your job. I just sit back and watch you guys chase it down.
Yeah, exactly. And certainly I can go back on some chats now and look at the people we talked about who might get this job and be like, hey, that was a way off the mark.
No comment on that one for me.
Yeah, I just think it's impossible.
It is.
We go to a game, cover a game, there's a score up there, I can tell you what I saw. With this, it's like the JFK assassination. There's going to be different stories on what exactly happened. We didn't talk to him. Yes, we did talk to him, so anyway. That's kind of how that goes, right?
Yeah, the truth is kept to a confined group of people, but that's the fun in following the chase, and also probably being part of the chase too.
Yeah, well, The search is over as the headline. And for an old white guy like me, the first thing I thought of was Survivor when I saw that. You remember the song "The Search Is Over"? Piano song. Anyway. That's what I thought of when I heard that. But okay, so I want to ask you more thing about Woodward. What was he like during the search? Because like people, saw him duck hunting, and it's like, oh. He's duck hunting with Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Jared Small. He's smiling. He's happy. He's got his guy locked up. It's done. And then some other people would say, well, I think he's really nervous. I don't know if he's got his guy. I mean, just what was he like throughout the search? He was the same exact Scott Woodward that he was a year ago. He doesn't change. He's really, really steady and consistent. And the thing that I observed, he's done this before. He has, whether it's hiring a baseball coach, whether it's hiring football coaches at other institutions, he's been through this process before, so he understands every level and layer of it. So I don't think anything that happened over the past 6-7 weeks surprised him at all. Mm-hmm. And so if he was out duck hunting, first of all, he loves to duck hunt, and that's part of his routine. He laid that out for y'all, I think, in the scrum, but then he goes and gets his hunting in the morning, then he's in the office a little bit later on those days. But he's steady as a rock. He doesn't get too high, doesn't get too low, doesn't get emotional. He's very analytical, very intellectual. And he downplayed the whole big game hunter acumen that he's gotten. Yeah, I think that's more of a. Look, I come from the narrative business. That's my roots are in storytelling, and I think we look for themes as we're telling these stories. He's not a big game hunter when it comes to hiring coaches. He's into hiring great coaches, just the way that he's into hiring great people to cut the grass in Tiger Stadium, or great people to cook over there in the nutrition center. That's what his standard is. And so if that person has a massive resume with a lot of wins, fantastic. If it's someone who's an up-and-comer, fantastic. Whoever's going to be the best fit at that time to make LSU Athletics the best it can be, that's who he's going to go after. We're transitioning into basketball season now. I mean, and I will say this. There are not many years on a Wednesday night against Ohio that over 11,000 people are coming out for a basketball game. Yep. I used to be told sometimes when I would get on my soapbox about, hey, number one, Arizona's coming to town and they only sold 9,000 tickets or something. Well, we don't get into basketball until after signing day. Yeah. Football. And signing day at the time was like February 5th, 6th, 7th, whatever. Yep. That's not the case now. And if this many people are coming this early, you're going to have some sold-out crowds to see this team this year. There's no doubt in my mind. Yeah, and to me, that's a complete team effort. Now, it starts with success. So we've started this group called Basketball 365. We meet year-round to talk about basketball. We've been doing this for a couple months now. It was Matt Laborde's idea, Stephanie Remp's idea. Will was heavily involved in planning that. And when we first sat down, Matt Laborde, who's our CFO and he's an administrator for basketball, he said, look, Will's job and LSU basketball's job is to get the fans in there, right? When they win, the fans will come. Our job is to keep them there. So we're figuring out how do we market the games better, make the experience better. Now, it starts with the winning. The team being successful, playing great defense, being electric. That's what's drawing them out there. But we've been working really hard to do things, whether it's Dave Haskin in marketing, whether it's Nelson Hernandez as Will's kind of right-hand man in basketball, thinking of ways to get students out there, to keep fans coming to sell tickets. Brian Broussard and his team, and they do a great job selling tickets. It's been a real collective effort to try to build up that hype. And that's what's exciting to me too, Jacques, because I'm a basketball guy, and that's my background. Yeah. I remember when I was in the media and I was at Tiger Rag, and they were at the end of the Trent Johnson era, the beginning of the Johnny Jones era, and I was sitting there like, no one's really covering this team super in depth like Ross was at the time with football. I was like, I'm going to dig into basketball and really try to cover it hard. So I'd be at every press conference, every game, and there would be games where there were probably less than 1,000 people there, right? And there would be press conferences where there was 2 media members there, 3 media members there. So to see it go from that to 2,300 students at your last game. 2,300 students. We had a record for students for the first 4 games this year. I'm sure it's up to a record for however many home games we've had now, 6 or whatever it is. It's a complete transformation. It's exciting to see. I hope it's just the beginning. I think it is just the beginning. Yeah. But for a guy like me who grew up as a basketball kid in a baseball football town, and trust me, I love baseball and football too, but I loved kind of being that kid that loved basketball when all my friends were distracted by the other sports.
it's really cool to see that basketball fever catching on, not just with Will, but with Kim and what they're doing in women's basketball as well.
Yeah. Well, they used to say basketball's got like I don't know how many week window to get people's attention, from the LSU bowl game to when LSU baseball starts in mid-February.
Yeah.
If they don't get your attention, they're not going to get your attention.
Yeah, what was the old joke? It was there's 3 seasons in Baton Rouge. There's football season, there's baseball season, there's spring football season, right? And so there's a basketball season now. People are turning out there and they're seeing a great product, and the atmosphere's been great. The students have been unbelievable. Their buy-in on this is key because they feel the energy, right? But I was at the game on Tuesday night and went and sat with my parents, and they were sitting by the opposing fans. You had the Ohio fans kind of razzing the LSU fans, and the LSU fans going back, and I was like, this is heated. Like this is not November, December basketball.
Hearing the sneakers squeak and no noise.
No, this was intense. This was high stakes. It was a good atmosphere, and I'm excited to see that carry forward.
Yeah, I think it's going to be fantastic. And Darius Days, just starting with him, Will Wade's second team here went to the Sweet 16, and he was kind of I don't want to say a role player, but he
was the 8th man on that team probably.
Yeah. Come out, hit some threes.
Yep.
And I just saw, like last year, his game, he became more, I don't want to say street, but he got in the paint and was rebounding and scoring in the paint. And, he's a guy in today's college basketball structure. It's hard to get a 4-year guy. It just doesn't happen. They're all kind of counting down. They can't wait to get to the NBA. But, man, if you could get like 2 or 3 of him on each team, a 4-year guy as solid as him, like he just reminds me like a Ricky Blanton,
Sure.
a program guy. It starts with him, and you got a lot of young, talented players around.
Yeah, a couple of thoughts on Days. One, I mentioned to Will when I sat down with him before the season. I said, he's your first 4-year player at LSU, first guy that you've had from start to finish. He said, yeah, he might be the last.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, that's just the nature of college basketball these days. These guys come for 2 or 3 years. You transfer portal in. Like, it's hard to get 4-year players in. So I remember when Days first got here, I loved his game. I said, if he sticks around, he could be an SEC Player of the Year type of candidate just because of all the tools that he has. He's, he doesn't project as a lottery pick as a true freshman because he's not 6'10", but he's not 6'6" and jumping out of the gym. He's just kind of the perfect college basketball player. This offseason, there's a weight room right through that door over there, the Tiger Stadium weight room that the football team used to work out in. A few other sports work out in there now. I try to go in there when there's no one in, right? So I hate being in the way, but I like to go lift weights and sort of, that's my zen, calm, meditative state.
And you're a tall guy, and then you probably feel small around some of these athletes.
Yeah, I mean, and mostly I just want to stay out of their way. If they're getting their work in, I feel kind of out of place being in there. And so I always try to go either early in the morning, 7 o'clock or so, 7 to 8, or after I drop the kids off at school, or lunchtime, maybe when there's a little break. Every time I went in there this summer, Darius Days was in there. I'm not kidding you. Every time I was in there, Days was in there by himself or with a trainer on the treadmill, doing some light weights. This wasn't the team workouts where everyone's there and they're doing the heavy weights. This was individualized stuff that he was doing. And so one day I just walked up to him, and we would just say hey to each other and talk and not really engage beyond that. And one day after I seen him 6 or 7 times a day, what are you doing in here? He was like, I got to get in the best shape of my life. Like, this is my year. This is my year to prove who I am. I've worked hard before, but I have to change the way I work. And so I watched him every day work, and I said, that guy's gonna have a big year. And of course, he comes out of the gate on fire this year, and he's just a great player, great young man. If you go in the gym at practice, everyone in the gym, he's gonna shake their hand, he's gonna say hello.
Big smile, good personality.
Big smile, big personality. Unselfish. You remember earlier this year at the press conference when he was talking about Eric Gaines holding him accountable? I don't know if you saw that or not.
Yeah.
But he was talking about, he said, I like when Gaines, even though he's a sophomore and he's a younger guy, I like when he holds me accountable. I need guys to hold me. I mean, there's a lot of seniors that come back for their 4th year and they're like, I'm the man, I'm the leader, I'm the alpha. You guys all fall in behind me. He wants those guys holding him accountable too and elevating his standard. And that's a recipe for success in his basketball career when he goes to the NBA, and then when he's done with basketball and he's doing something else, if he's got that attitude, he's going to be just fine.
Well, not to bring up bad memories, before you start working here, we know when the team chemistry can not go that way.
Sure.
When you get a guy who's getting a lot of attention and another guy gets jealous of that, and it can all just go sideways.
Oh, sure. I was in the middle of that, covering that, and you've seen how, we all saw how detrimental that can be, and it's tough. Like, it's not easy. That kind of stuff happens everywhere. I've been on teams where with much less talented players that that fell apart because of those chemistry issues. It's really hard to manage. It's a credit to Will and his staff that he's put together. They care about I was talking about Brian Kelly's attention to detail. Will Wade's attention to detail, you know this. It's unmatched. He plans every practice. He thinks about the psychology. He has a customized psychological approach to each different player, how he talks to them. If I'm going to be harder on this kid today, softer on this kid today. I'm going to be harder on this kid the next day, softer on this kid. I mean, everything is very, very customized and thought through. And
the score is so simplistic, right? The final score is so simplistic. It's just two numbers. All the stuff that goes into that, the process, so to speak. And real quick, Kim Mulkey too. She tonight is Cody and I are sitting here, and in my opinion, she's got her chance at her first big moment. I mean, We've got a top number 13 team in the country. Iowa State's coming in tonight, and hopefully they got 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 people show up to support her tonight. But that will only get better. I mean, she's only scratching the surface of what it's going to be here with the recruiting classes already, and she's maximized the talent she was left behind already.
Yeah, a couple things about Kim Mulkey. One, she knows what the best looks like. There's no question she knows what is required to win championships, and she demands that of everybody. She demands that of Grant, who handles her sports information. She demands that of her assistant coaches. She demands that of Sheldon doing video for them. She demands it of us. Like, if she needs us for something, she is going to expect the very, very best from us. And what's great is that when you give that to her, she reciprocates and she appreciates and she empowers you too. So it elevates everybody, and that's the power of a great coach, is that they can elevate the entire department, and a great department can elevate the university. She is the absolute epitome of that, and it expects the best from everyone, but then gives the best of herself. And as much as she demands more of herself and holds herself to a higher standard. So she's as Brian Kelly said last night, she makes coffee nervous. She's got a presence to her, right? She's got some energy and some juice to her, but she brings it every night. And that program is already turned around. If you want to go learn basketball, go watch one of her practices. Like, I've learned as much as a guy that grew up around the game, and both parents were coaches and played for some great, great coaches. Yeah. I've learned as much watching 15 minutes of her practice as any other spot in basketball. So she knows not only the X's and O's and that sort of thing, but just the excellence required to run a great program.
That's fantastic. And I, just in closing, I talked to somebody who was a sportscaster in Waco. And one night he kind of buried the women's team in the lineup, so to speak. Instead of being E1, they were like E10. Kim Mulkey let him know about it the next day. So she watches those local sportscasts too, and wants her team to get the deserved coverage and respect and all that. So that's important.
Well, I told you the story about, when she first got hired, I spent a lot of time with her the first couple of days and working on strategic communications and that sort of thing. And she called me crisis guy because, as you know, one of the terms in my title is crisis communications. So she started calling me crisis guy, and I didn't see her for a few weeks, and I saw her on the sideline at a football game. She said, "Oh, I see you show up for my first couple of days and act like you're important, and then you don't come around anymore." I said, "Coach, that's a good thing. That means you hadn't had any crisis for me to deal with." But that was her way of letting me know, like, hey, I need you to be around. I need you to. And so the next day I was at practice, and she was right about that. Sure, I was busy with football and I was busy with basketball, and I got podcasts and I got stuff to do, but it's a reminder that you've got to lock in and buy in with all these programs, and there's a lot of them, 22 teams I think, but it's a really fun time to be here because of coaches like Kim Mulkey and all the other great coaches we have. Watching everyone like a hawk. So it's good stuff. Cody Worsham, really enjoyed this. Yeah, appreciate it, Jacques. Thanks for having us down, and best of. I'm gonna say, I wouldn't say best of luck. You guys don't need luck. Things are rolling here at LSU. Yeah, it's a great time to be a Tiger. Super exciting, and I think the best is yet to come. So good time to be in purple and gold. There you go.